the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so welcome to all our new board members. We will start, our first item is oath of office for those of you who are new.
And we will have 3 elected members stand and 4 members stand. Please raise your right hand and after the reading say, "I do" or "I will." I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this governing body, so help me God.
Well, welcome Jill, Joel, Jill back, Joel, Darlene, and Miley to the board. Yes. Any public comment on agenda items? Okay, with none, let's see, our next area is the organization of school board for 2025. So we need to elect the office of president, vice president, secretary, and vice secretary. Are there any nominations for these positions among the group?
For president, I'd like to maintain Stacy.
Do you want to go through them individually, or do you want to do them all at once?
Whatever.
Is there a preference?
All at once.
Okay. All right, so any other nominations for president? Okay. Nominations for vice president?
I'll make a nomination for Michelle.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice president? Secretary, any nominations?
Make the nomination to keep as is with Dave.
Okay. Any others? And assistant secretary.
Make the nomination to keep as is with Jill.
Okay. All right, no other nominations? All right, with that, we'll take a vote for president for Stacy, vice president Michelle, secretary Dave, and assistant secretary Jill. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the appointment of the treasurer and the deputy treasurer.
So those positions are currently filled by Beth Quinn and Lori Baumer, and I have recommended that the board maintain the current people in those positions.
And
Make the nomination to maintain current positions with Beth Quinn as treasurer and Lori Balmer as deputy treasurer.
okay. Motion by Michelle, seconded by Darlene, to maintain Beth Quinn as treasurer and Lori Balmer as deputy treasurer. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the appointment of the board meeting recorder.
And Lori has been our fearless leader in that for some time, and I beg you to please keep her. She might want out of it.
She does a great job.
She does do a great job.
I'll make the recommendation or nomination that we maintain Lori Balmer as the recorder.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Wiley, to maintain Lori Balmer as our recorder. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Appointment of legislative liaison.
So this is the individual who communicates usually through ISBA about different legislative issues going on, and this is a big year in that. Often attends the ISBA conferences, talks to our legislators, might attend a breakfast or the lunches that go into talking to the to our legislators and advocating for our district in particular with ISBA and their lobbying and legislative priorities and agendas. So right now, that had been filled by Tim Ellerding, but with his retirement from the board, we will need a nomination. I have in your notes the folks who have expressed an interest.
I'd like to nominate Wiley Sirk for the appointment of legislature liaison.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Jill. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll vote. Motion by Michelle, seconded by Jill. I had to think there for a second, sorry. To nominate Wiley for the appointment of our legislative liaison. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next is our school attorney.
And Scott Ainsworth.
My hat. There's no reason to change
No,
that.
I agree.
How many years are we at now?
35, 36. Since I started in medical school.
Wow.
I
have
will
too
make
much
the
knowledge.
motion to nominate.
All right, we got a motion by Wiley. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle. Any other nominations? All right, we'll go ahead and put your hand down. Oh, you may. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Keeping you, Scott, for another year. Yeah. Appointment of the Adams County Redevelopment Commission representative.
And so Mr. Ellerding had represented us with the Adams County Redevelopment Commission again. Has done a lot of great work for the school because we have been able to use his knowledge of our school system to express some needs or some things that we could do to use the Development Commission with some of our CTE programs in particular, and just being aware of some of the different priorities going on in our city and region so that we can help participate and support what's going on locally as well. Since Tim did fill that, and we will need another nomination, and again, you have some notes of folks who did express that interest to me. Whether they remember they did or not.
I'll nominate Dave.
Okay. All right, nomination by Joel, seconded by Michelle for Dave Hill for the position on the Adams County Redevelopment Board. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next is the establishment of a meeting date and time. Currently, we're the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Bless you. Are we good with that time? Date, time?
Make the nomination that we maintain the second Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Okay. Motion by Michelle, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Wiley.
And third.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Wiley to maintain the board meeting the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the establishment of the salary for board members.
Traditionally, that has been $2,000 per year. There is an option legally for an additional pay, kind of a per diem or per meeting pay. This board has historically foregone that per diem stipend, but you do legally have the option of receiving that.
Any thoughts on that or a motion?
I'll make the motion, it stays as is.
Okay. Motion by Michelle, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. Motion by Michelle, seconded by Dave to maintain the salary for the board at $2,000 with no per diem. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the SEBT trust appointments.
So this SEBT stands for School Employee Benefit Trust, and it's how we get our health insurance. And you have to approve 2 representatives. One represents NADA, or North Adams Teachers Association. and then one represents you as a board and the school district. So typically, for the last year, Craig Lord has been the NADA representative, and I have been the administrative representative.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to continue as stated.
okay. Motion by Wiley, is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Seconded by Darlene. Motion by Wiley, seconded by Darlene to maintain Craig Lohr and Kim Hyatt as our representatives for the SCBT Trust. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. So we'll suspend now the regular meeting, and Dave will open the finance meeting.
So now I call the 2025 North Adams Community School Finance Meeting to order. I need a bang gavel. Thank you. So we have to, first order is to elect a president, and then we'll elect a secretary. So is there any nominations for president of this finance committee?
I nominate Dave.
How many things can Dave be a part of?
As many
Many
as
as
you
you want.
nominate.
Is there any other nominations?
Nope.
Okay. So is there a motion on the table for Dave Hill to be president? Is there a second? Okay. So we're gonna vote on this, so please remember to vote yes for the candidate, and so, or no. So all of those in favor of Dave Hill for the finance board president, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Opposed? All right, 7-0. Okay, now we have to nominate a secretary.
Which cannot be Dave.
Which cannot be.
Yeah, which
yes.
cannot be me because I'm the current one, so we need somebody else.
It says it was Dave.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I nominate
It was a
her.
tough
I
job.
was gonna say,
It really was.
yeah. Like to nominate Darlene.
I'll second that.
Okay.
You have to memorize all this stuff, it's okay.
Okay.
You have to remember a lot of stuff. So all willing for Darlene to be the secretary of the finance
Did
committee?
we get a second?
Oh,
I
did
second it.
Yes. Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Motion by
That's okay.
Michelle, second by Stacy. All those in favor for Darlene to be the secretary?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Darlene is the secretary, 7-0 vote. So now we're just gonna review the reports, is that correct? Okay.
Okay, in 2024, North Adams Community Schools earned a total of $321,056.10 interest income in our main operating accounts. This is a little over $15,000 more than what we earned last year. We've earned $72,364.13 in interest for our 2024 construction bond proceeds. This money is in a money market account for that project. And we've also earned $1,973.63 in our 2025 construction geo bond proceeds. This money is in another money market account that was opened in December 2024 for that project. Our investment policy, North Adams Community Schools follows Neola Policy 0151.1. For our investments, funds are currently held at First Bank of Bern and First Merchants Bank in 3 checking accounts and 2 money market accounts.
Thank you.
Thought you had enough on your tables. So for those folks who may be unfortunately, yes, this is one of the requirements along with reorganization of the board, and the finance meeting every year, usually in January, to just kind of go over and present to you folks, what our kind of year-end information, culminating information is. So, most of the information I'm presenting to you is available on the DUAB website, which is the Distressed Unit something board, agency board, sorry. So the first thing that we'll go over is average daily membership, and so again, we were up 12 this fall, which was good news. We have had a somewhat of a decline in an enrollment up and down different years. Remember, these counts are taken twice a year, in October 1st and February. And I gave you some information about what the basic tuition support grant, last year it was about $7,200. This year it's about $7,300. Again, the state had put much fewer funds toward state revenue this year than they had in 23. So we were anticipating that going down, or not being as big a difference, I guess I should say. Then the next, on the second slide, are our fund balances, and again, that references what our cash balances were. So I talked about our federal funds, which are shown in kind of a flesh-colored bar, usually below the baseline. That is because most federal funds are grants, and they're a reimbursement cycle, and most of them are also the big ones we deal with are usually a 2 to 3 year rolling fund, and so we're always waiting for a reimbursement, which is why we're usually showing a negative. They're not truly negative, we're just waiting to get reimbursed for them, so that's why you see that. We did make some transfers to rainy day last year to get that to the point where we like to keep it, which is between 2.5 and 3 million. Education fund, we did see increase there. A large part of that was due to starting getting Paths to Quality Level 3 certified in our pre-K, and that allowed us to take vouchers from On My Way Pre-K and CCDF vouchers for our 3-year-olds. That took a great deal of pressure off the education fund and allowed us to maintain a healthier cash balance there. Again, as I have in my notes there, we have used a good portion of that cash balance is going toward raises that were given this year. That was the plan all along, is to try to find monies outside of just enrollment increases so that we could improve salaries for staff. We did have a GO and lease bond here relatively recently, so some of our debt amounts did go up mildly. And then again, by using this debt service tax management as our primary budgeting strategy, I guess I would say, that has allowed us to keep more money in education fund instead of transferring large amounts to operation. It also allows us to do a lot more of our capital projects, which are the big expensive things, through bonding, which has allowed us to keep more money in operations and accomplish more projects because we have more money in operations to do more smaller things. I do want to say, just as, not to get too political here, but there is a great deal of talk in the legislature about property taxes and decreasing property taxes and doing some different things, and there's been a lot of information come out, I think, recently about how local government entities, of which we are one, are likely to be hit very hard by what the proposed property tax reform bill is going to be. I've been assured that probably what will end up becoming of that legislation is not how it's going to initially be rolled out tomorrow. But tomorrow will be very scary for local government entities, and so we will be working hard. Wiley's position as legislative liaison, my role will be very important in making sure that schools are being advocated for, that we have to make sure schools are getting property tax monies in order for us to continue to have facilities, transportation, pay different entities to keep our facilities clean, drive buses, all those things. So it is it's gonna be a scary, I think, few weeks here.
I would though like to reinforce, I agree with you, and as you said though, more than likely, it's not going to end up
No,
like that at all. Or, you know,
not as bad.
not as bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it still is a major part of a lot of bills' agendas to impact property tax, so just be informed. Annual and deficit surplus, this slide on the DUAB website compares your revenue to expenditures. The black bars on each year's graph kind of shows you where your cash balance is for all funds together in that year. So I would tell you, we are maintaining a very healthy, as we've been advised by our financial consulting folks, a healthy cash balance, but not unreasonable or unrealistic. By and large, our revenue is outpacing our expenditures, which is what you generally like to see. So I think 2019, what you're seeing there, some of those years have some things to do with our big renovation project, I would say. So it's not really that we had any deficit. It was more because of the additional monies we had through the project. The next slide shows what your fund balances are year to year as a % of expenditures. And again, in working with Chad Blacklock from Stifel, we are at the point that we're now, our goals are to keep our education fund at 20%, or our cash balance, excuse me, at 20% of the expenditures from education fund now. It had been 12 to 15%, but with inflation and different movement he's seeing legislatively, he is now recommending 20% to maintain safety and making sure you can meet your payrolls. And we're staying at 25% of operations. And again, that may be conservative with what might happen with property taxes as well. So again, right now we are over our goals, but things wax and wane here and there. So it's not a bad place to be. We did make some transfers to rainy day to again keep that at a point where we want it to be. Rainy day, you have a lot more flexibility in what you can spend things on and when you can spend it. And again, our philosophies financially have been we want to maintain a healthy emergency fund because you never know when something's going to happen. The last slide that we have is revenue by type. Local revenue and our state revenue typically doesn't change a ton, but the state did put forth, and let me see what colors the state, kind of that blue wide band is the majority of our funding. It did go up from 22 to 23, and a large part of that is the legislators put a lot of money toward education that year, so we saw some increase in spending, which we were appreciative of. Our federal stimulus dollars have come and gone. They peaked in 22, that's the purple at the very top. We do receive a decent amount of money from federal grants. I did want to make mention, though, that many of our title grants, especially Title I, which is what we use with a lot of our elementary students to support students who are struggling or for more marginalized populations, that has consistently been getting cut more and more. I don't know, Tiffany, if you have anything more you'd like to add on that one.
So, for a great example, last year to this year, our amount decreased 50,000. So, and I'm hearing from a lot of districts that there's a lot of misinformation, and with when things are reported compared to when the snapshot's taken, counts can be incredibly different. So we're working really hard to make sure we're keeping everybody identified that we need to have identified, so that way we can maintain our dollars. But again, with legislation sessions coming up, we don't know what those dollars are going to look like, especially with things at the federal level.
So there is discussion at the federal level of whether the U.S. Department of Education is something that needs to continue. So that, of course, scares school people because Title I, all our title grants, a lot of our other funding comes from federal grants. We've been assured that just whether the U.S. DOE continues or not, many of these grants have existed well before the creation of that department, and that does not mean that they just wouldn't, you know, how we shuffle things. So it probably just will be shuffled to a new department. But it still just makes you kind of scared because you don't know who you're talking to and who's going to be the source of information. So that'll all be new this year too. That's all I have.
Do have a quick question, just only because it, and it scares me every year when we discuss it. I know, with the whole rainy day, I know there had been a lot of ebb and flow and a lot of discussion about the ability to transfer and how much you could transfer, and then the fear of when you transfer a healthy amount, then the potential of that deferring funds in the future for us. Is there still as much discussion over that, or are we kind of even keel or level playing field with what we're seeing in a lot of other systems? And I know we can't comfortably compare to everybody else, but I mean, is it?
I don't think so. The big one that you hear about was the amount you could transfer from education to operations, which that was kept at 15%, and we're kind of been hovering in that 7 to 8%. Again, with discussion of how they might reform property taxes, which is what funds the operations fund, I don't know if there will be some impact there because of changes that might happen. So it's going to be a domino effect, but right now I don't hear that as a big source of problem. It's not for us. Now I can tell you if property taxes are cut significantly or schools aren't going to levy as much property tax and they're not able to transfer as much if they monkey with that, that could be a big problem for some districts. I don't know that it'd be as big a problem here as far as the transfer amount. If that, I don't know if that answered your question.
I guess I just always fear that if we have a healthy chunk to transfer, then there's a potential they're gonna come back and it's like, well, you're not spending what you have, so then we're gonna cut your potential even lower. And, you know, because ideally, their thought process is we're giving you what you need to operate on, and if you're operating on a lot less than what we're funding, then.
I can tell you, looking, and I couldn't quote you the percent, and I can find that. Our rainy day fund as a percent of expenditures is not excessive. We have received that feedback at all. They probably are more concerned if you have a healthier cash balance in a particular fund that either state revenue funds or property tax funds. Because that means, again, why do I need to levy a tax for you to get more money that you have plenty? You just need to appropriate it.
Fairly lately, you've not heard them talk too much about rainy days. It doesn't seem to be on the radar. Doesn't mean that can't change.
Right.
But it's not like it used to be.
No. And again, ours is not excessive. I would say ours is according to Chad, when he's talked to us, and maybe Luke, I don't know if you want to step in on this, that's not really the side of things you're usually working with us on, but Luke Bergman is here tonight to present on the project. Lease bond, but he's Chad's colleague. But I won't put him on the spot, but
yeah,
I don't think at all that our amount compared to what other districts may have is anything that's going to trigger a red flag for anyone.
I agree. I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's some other school corporations that have a lot higher cash balances in their rainy day fund. It hasn't really been a point of discussion recently with legislators. Again, they kind of focus more on the education fund, the dollars that they're giving per student, and then what's going on with the property tax dollars. And I think that's what we're going to see in this upcoming legislative session. But rainy day fund hasn't been a main point of concern for them recently. But to your point,
And hope that it stays that way.
Yeah.
We could have some of it encumbered to redo some parking lots, so we
Okay.
will see it go down
Okay.
a couple $100,000.
Perfect.
but- Appreciate it.
We're definitely not trying to just stock money
Yeah.
there, which is what you would want to do for a lot of reasons.
But I think it is good to keep it on the radar, just as an awareness.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Ken. And finance meeting is adjourned.
All right, you did a great job.
Thanks.
All right, we will reconvene our regular board meeting and start with consensus items.
There's really only one that I would like to speak to, and this is going to be difficult for several of us. I'm sure most people are well aware that Dale Manus has been a 33, 34-year employee here at North Adams, did pass yesterday evening after a 15-month battle with cancer. He's been an industrial tech teacher at the middle school, I think beginning in '92, somewhere in there. Moved to high school assistant principal, and then he couldn't, as he told me, couldn't move fast enough to athletic director from assistant principal. Dale, I'll speak personally, after moving up here in 2012 and not knowing anyone, Dale is one of those guys that he's not going to take no for an answer to get to know you and be your friend. And he was a friend, is a friend. There's a lot of kids he has coached or mentored or supported programs in the community and in the school. Diehard Belmont fan. Good friend, good mentor, good colleague, great man. And he will definitely be missed by all of us who knew him. Just not enough I could say. And definitely our condolences and our hearts go out to Cheryl and Brady and Hallie and his extended family and his friends. And we're certainly praying for you and thinking about you in this time. Funeral arrangements have been released, and I believe Sunday from noon to 6 is the viewing. I forget you remember
It's at Haggard.
Haggard, I'm sorry, and then Monday, I'm gonna have to defer because I wrote it down.
11 at the Bridge Church.
11 at the Bridge, and I think Dave and Pastor Fox are going to be officiating, thank you. So, be remiss if I didn't note that he is officially retiring as of this meeting, and he was really looking forward to that. I wish he'd gotten the chance to have all the adventures he had planned to have.
Thank you, Kim. Well stated.
Other than that, that's all the consensus notes I have.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on consensus items? If not, a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Dave, seconded by Wiley to approve the consensus items as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next up, we have a program update from Katie.
It's been a rough day for a lot of the staff, so give some grace.
So I just have two quick things that I plan to share with you guys tonight. The first is I wanted to share about some of the changes that we made at the high school to some policies and procedures that we have in place. At the beginning of the school year, and just the way that students and staff really stepped up and essentially rose to the challenge, or what we had laid out before them. So really, really proud of that. And more the next slide, Justin. And then I'll share a little bit about some upcoming changes that were recently approved for graduation requirements for the current 8th grade class. So really two major changes that we made to procedures that we have in place. We changed our bell schedule around, and then we also added a homeroom at the end of the day, which we sort of changed the structure of and tried to put some more things in place to support students in some of the soft skill areas, checking their emails on a regular basis, checking their grades, those types of things. We established one day where students stay in the homeroom, and it's meant to be a relationship building time between student to student and teacher to student. And
I think both of those things have gone very smoothly. The other thing with the bell schedule, it allowed us to be on the middle school to be sort of on the same schedule, which is nice as we start to see where we may overlap and be able to share teachers and things like that. So the next one is the part that I'm really excited about and very proud of the way that not just our students but our staff kind of rose to the challenge in enforcing some of this stuff with consistency. And I'll start with the locker usage one, and as I look around the tables, I see some people that probably have some high school students that may have their own opinions on that at home. Good, bad, right, or wrong, and whether or not they liked it, they've all done a really good job of following the policy with that. One thing that we sought to do this year as we were implementing some of these new policies was to get student input. So over the course of the first 2 weeks of school, we did issue several student surveys just asking them, hey, what are you most apprehensive about with the cell phone policy, or what do you not like about the locker usage policy, and those types of things. And some of the feedback we got from kids was, well, can we take our bags to homeroom at the end of the day? And so we took that feedback to heart. We came back to them and we said, yeah, we'll allow you to take them to the last period of the day. And so I think they appreciated, that their voices were being heard, but that also, one of the reasons we did away with the bags is because they were laying all over the classrooms. When we expect teachers to be circulating and up and around the room, it was really hard for them to own their classrooms when they're having to say, excuse me, or trip over bags and things like that. So homeroom, it wasn't as big of a deal, but the kids have done a great job with that, and staff members have as well, so we really appreciate that. The cell phone policy was, something that kind of swept the whole state, and schools had some leeway as far as, the specifics of the policy. Some schools in the area, you leave it in your locker all day long. Some allow you to have it at lunch. Everybody does it a little bit differently, but as a staff here and knowing our students, we felt like we could trust them to carry them with themselves to class, but that they shouldn't be on their person during class time. And so every teacher has the same, pouches, and kids are expected to drop them in when they enter the classroom. And so kids have done a great job with that, and more so what has come from that, and students would say this too, is the observations that we have made as a staff in watching our kids interact with one another. Engagement levels with classmates are much higher than I've seen them in probably the last, maybe 8-9 years. Even at lunchtime when they're allowed to have them, we're noticing that they just don't get them out like they used to. And so that's been very positive to see. Same thing with, during class time, teachers aren't having to constantly be looking for the student who's trying to hide it, or texting people they shouldn't be and stuff like that during class. So they've done a really awesome job with that, and I appreciate the staff's commitment to enforcing that stuff consistently. We know that with consistency and enforcing expectations, it provides a safe, predictable environment for kids, and that's really important for learning. So the staff have done an awesome job. So have the kids, which we really appreciate. And then I think I talked a little bit about this last year, but I do talk about this with students at the beginning of the year class meetings and things like that, is that with their ability to meet some of these reasonable expectations that we have in place that are really solely there so that we can create an environment where kids can come and feel safe and learn, and we can all, enjoy one another, but there's freedom in that. And when they show us that, 95% of them can meet those expectations, then it allows us the freedom to trust them to be able to do some really cool things inside the building that I don't think a lot of schools are capable of. And so first semester, we brought in a coffee truck one day. We had a caramel apple bar. We had a whole district pep session. We do individual high school pep sessions. We had a couple staff student challenges during homeroom time that the kids really like. And then, of course, we do our Braves Day where we're able to alter the schedule, and there's a lot of freedom in that. Kids can choose kind of different activities throughout the last portion of the day that they really enjoy. And I'm not afraid to bring guests into the building. You know, we spent a morning in November hosting our first seniors with seniors breakfast, and that had a really positive impact, and it was really heartwarming to walk around and to be there and to see the seniors with their grandparents. So that was fun and really cool, able to do that. And our kids just, you know, we're constantly trying to teach and help them make the distinction between different environments that they're in. You know, we act differently at school than we do at church. There's different expectations in different, you know, places that we go in our lives, and so we just want to continue to help them make that distinction. You know, that school is a professional learning environment, but we come here to support and have fun in those types of things too. So, and then the last thing I was just going to touch on is the new diploma requirements that is going to come into play for our current 8th graders. So I'm not going to go over the specifics of it, only because I have not met with my staff on this yet, and so want to meet with them first. I've met with several individually, but just an overview for you guys, just to know that it does go into effect with the current 8th grade class, and so we're going to be going through some transition stuff over the next couple of years here that we're prepared for. And the current kind of core diploma, core 40 diploma is 40 credits. The new one will be 42, and then there will be opportunities, rather than having like an academic honors diploma or technical honors diploma, instead there will be opportunities for students to earn SEALs in one of the 3 areas: enrollment, employment, or enlistment. So I think that there is some real opportunity in this. There's some more flexibility as far as course requirements go with the 42 required credits. Opportunity to kind of individualize the student's path even more than we're able to do now. And so we're approaching the changes with optimism, and we're excited. And I also think that there will be opportunity to partner with local industry a little bit more than we're able to do now. And so kind of making a plan to tackle that too. So.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody have any questions? Katie?
Can you define Bell's schedule? What does that really mean?
Yeah, so like first period is 8 to 8:45, and then second period is 8:50 to 9:35, or
Okay.
if that makes sense, okay? All right, any other questions? All right, thank you guys for your time. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Katie's trying to scoot to the girls' game
Yeah.
at 4:30.
Love it. Thank you. See ya.
Cool.
Okay, so we don't have any old business, new business. The first item is the preliminary determination hearing.
So pursuant to Indiana Code 6:1.1-20, whenever a school corporation goes into a lease bond or issues any kind of bond for construction or renovation of a school building that results in costs that might exceed a certain threshold, we have to hold 2 public hearings, and this is the first, or the preliminary hearing for that determination. This is the hearing where it is open to the public for comment or questions. We won't be voting on anything pursuant to this tonight, but you will be learning about the why behind what we're doing and what we're proposing, and then we'll have a special meeting to do the second hearing on January 21st.
Okay. So the next item, as Kim noted, is on the agenda is for the board to hold the preliminary hearing on the proposed construction project. If you're interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the sign-in sheet, which should include your name and address. After presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes, and that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required. At this time, I will ask that school council explain the purpose of the hearing.
Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 6:1.1-20-3.1, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution to preliminarily determine to issue bonds or enter a lease for a project which has a total project cost in excess of certain thresholds. These public hearings and the consideration of resolutions are the very beginning of the legal process. We note that no board action is legally required at this hearing. Rather, this hearing is solely to enter public comment regarding the project.
We will now hear from the superintendent about the process for determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for the project.
I intended to have slides, but was unable to get them from Barton Co., but I think I can explain well enough. So, the original parts of the high school and middle school are from 1992 at the middle school and 1967 at the high school. And while we've done some renovation projects here in the last 10 years, there's still several more things to go. So to help us determine what things we needed to do and to help us prioritize those, we did contract with Barton Co. about 1.5 years ago to do a facility study, which you've received some information on that, and they did prioritize that for us into highest need, high need, medium need, low need. As we shared with you, a lot of that encompasses plumbing, which isn't anything very pretty or that's extremely exciting, but plumbing and electrical are a big part of what need upgraded in big parts of our building. Especially at the high school, the plumbing that we're going to be talking about is cast iron plumbing, original plumbing to the building. In some places it has disintegrated, in other places it is flaking, and which causes clogs and drainage issues. We certainly don't want to wait until we have a problem that can't be fixed, because a lot of this is under terrazzo and under floor that's going to have to be jackhammered up. We did get lucky on part of what we're proposing for this time. It's in our tunnel space, so that will be a much better situation. Then a lot of our electrical plant panels in the high school, our 1967 electrical panels, don't have fuses for them anymore. Some future projects, you're going to hear some things about our HVAC controls. We have our HVAC systems are new, but our controls for them are not. So a lot of this is just general maintenance, but it's high dollar and pretty invasive in the school. So again, the first target that we would like to focus on is going to be in the high school, and that's going to be in what we call B Hall. I think for those of you who were students here long ago, it was the old science wing. It's where we have a lot of our special ed and health classes right now. Luckily, a lot of that is under or is over the tunnel, and so we'll be able to get that fixed without having to do a lot of digging. Wherever we are replacing plumbing, we are also going to update the restrooms that are there, and so that will involve new partitions, paint, new ceilings, fixtures for the faucets, hand dryers, things like that. Probably not replacing the floor in the high school. It's in good shape still. So that's most of that area, and that will even go out into the parking area to where those cast iron pipes connect to the main sewer drain. The next place that will be impacted is the shop area in the high school, and there needs to be a new cast iron pipe, and it's going to go from the storage custodial closet area of the new cafeteria there through the engineering lab, and then outside and connect to, again, another drain. So the engineering lab and a little bit of the hallway where the construction wood shop is, that's terrazzo, there's no tunnel there, so that will have to be dug up and then new flooring put down. We're probably looking at an epoxy floor in the hallway because that is terrazzo, and just dig up that whole, it's just a little alcove area, if you know what I'm talking about, and just put epoxy there. And then there's carpeting in most of the engineering lab, so it would just be a concrete patch and then carpet. Luckily, we have carpet squares, so it's just going to be replacing the carpet squares in the areas we need. The biggest probably area that we're going to be tackling in this proposed project is in the old middle school RAS hallway where the art, music, tech ed are. Again, big cast iron pipe there. So what is going to happen there, there's some big pieces of the what is now elementary art. It had been middle school family and consumer sciences, part of the elementary music, and part of the middle school art classroom are going to have to be taken to a dirt floor because it's in the ground and under the floor. What's good and bad about that is, for example, the elementary art classroom that is there now was really just, in the last project, that's just where we put art. We didn't have a lot of extra funds at the time to really design it to work for elementary students. Like the sinks, it was an old fax room, home ec room, so the sinks were adult height. We did not have a restroom for the littles that go to that class, so they would either have to go across the hallway to the middle school restrooms, which was not ideal. So we are going to put a restroom for little kids in that one, as well as the redo the elementary music one, add some storage, rework the room to fit better, again, the purpose of that classroom. The middle school art, we used to have 2 art teachers. We only have 1 now, but there was a fake wall between the 2 classrooms. It was one of those accordion curtain walls, which really means you can't really do much of anything, and she didn't have good storage because everything just kind of had to be mobile. And so they're going to make a more stationary wall for her, add some new casework, and in the back half of that second classroom, create some storage for her because she didn't have much. The front half, we had been using that room for services from our OTPT for special needs students and our school psychologist when she's here working. So we're going to create half that room. We'll have a therapy center and a conference room for those folks in the front piece. We will redo again all the plumbing in the downstairs bathroom there has to be reworked, so they're going to get new partitions, paint, ceiling, fixtures, and we're also going to do the bathrooms upstairs because they're connected to the same plumbing, and so those have needed, not much has happened there at all since 1992. So that's pretty much what we're talking. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot.
Okay, we will now hear from our underwriter about how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect of the typical property tax bill.
Hi, good evening. Luke Brugman with Stifel. We serve as bond underwriter for the school corporation. I have a couple of slides here really just to show how we're going to fit this financing within the school corporation's debt service rate. As Ms. Hyatt mentioned, this is strictly informational for this first hearing. No resolutions are being passed this evening. We're setting maximum parameters, and then at the hearing next week, that's when resolutions will be in front of you. So the first thing that we always start with on the first slide here, anytime we're structuring new debt, is the school corporation's current outstanding debt payments. And you can see the 5 bond issues that the school corporation currently has listed there. In 2025 to 2026, you'll see that the payments drop off a little bit. You'll see that again in 2029 to 30 and so forth. Probably every 3 to 4 years, some of these debts pay off what we call debt cliffs, and really kind of leaving you some capacity to fund some of these projects. And this correlates, if you flip to the next slide, this correlates to what the debt service tax rate is, which is here in gray. You'll see really, since historically, I mean, the school corporations maintained a debt service tax rate of 0.449. We know that's the case in 2025. I don't know if the budget order is out yet, but it will be soon. Just similar to the other page, when you have some of those payments falling off, you'll have a little bit of a drop in your tax rate in 26, and then again, so on and so forth, as some of those payments start to retire. On the next slide, we are looking at funding this project. We're going to fund this in 2 series of bonds. Right now, we're looking at funding a portion of it in 2025 and the remainder in 2027. That's going to be subject to change, kind of based on what the construction needs are. Maybe it gets accelerated, or you need money a little bit quicker than 2027. But you'll see really the goal here in mind is to, 1, maintain that 4.449 debt service rate, but also leave capacity for the future, knowing that these are not going to be the only financing projects that you're gonna have over the next 20 years. So this really kind of fits within the school corporation's long-term plan when you're looking at what your capital needs are over the next 5, 10 years. You have plenty of capacity as some of the debt starts to pay off. On the next slide, this is, as of now, kind of an estimate of what we expect the timing to be. Again, this may change as you start working with Barton Co. and maybe need a little bit more money up front in that first series of bonds, maybe need a little bit less. We're authorizing everything, this full $9,130,000, so you do have total fungibility of money between the time you get. So this is just an estimate here, but we expect the first bond issue in 2025 to be for $2,820,000. After you pay cost of issuance, professional fees, that leaves the school corporation with $2,665,000 for hard and soft project costs. And then coming back in 2027 for a bond issue of $6,310,000, professional fees of just over $200,000, leaving the school corporation with hard and soft project fund dollars of $6,105,000. When you add that up, it matches the pie chart there, so that's a total borrowing of $9,130,000 over the multiple series of bonds, $360,000 for professional fees, and then leaving the school corporation with $8,770,000 for hard and soft project costs. And hopefully these cost of issuance numbers are conservative. Every time we've done this in the past, they always have come in much less than that. Any additional dollars, you could either lower the borrowing amount or it would just flow into the hard and soft project costs. On the next slide, again, nothing is being passed tonight, but this would be in the resolutions at next week's meeting. These are maximum parameters for the projects. You see the first couple rows there, just what we went over. The maximum borrowing amount of $9,130,000, cost of issuance of $360,000, leaving hard and soft dollars for project cost of $8,770,000. Estimated interest rates, we put in the resolution of 2 to 6%. If you sold bonds today, you're around a 4%, maybe a little bit less. Again, we're talking about multiple series out, so trying to be conservative within that. Everything that we've structured now is based on 5% interest rate, so over a percent cushion built in there. Maximum term of the bonds, 20 years. That's the maximum that you can have within the statute of Indiana for property tax-backed bonds. If for some reason you want to shorten that up, if you maybe you have some growth in your assessed value, as we showed in the previous charts, you have the flexibility to do that as long as that fits within the long-term plan. The estimated interest cost is listed there. Again, hopefully that's conservative of $6,427,000. The maximum payment is simply the maximum payment that the school corporation can make in any given year on this project. So the two bond issues combined of $2 million. If you divide that by the school corporation's net assessed value, you get the 0.2326. But as we showed on the previous slide, as you have some debt falling off, the estimated increase over the 2024 or 25 now debt service rate is 0 cents. So we're going to maintain that 44 or 49 debt service rate. A couple other ratios at the bottom that we required to have for statute. First one is just simply your max payments divided by the school corporation's net assessed value, and then the second one is the direct and overlapping debt. That's just looking at all the other municipal entities' property tax back debt. So library, county, town, township, any property tax debt that they have divided by your net assessed value. So you will see all these numbers in the resolutions next week. Again, they're maximum parameters. We can always go below them, but once they're set, we cannot increase above those numbers. Any questions?
Do you want to explain kind of our thinking of doing the 25 and 27 together?
Yeah, can you go back a couple slides? One kind of twofold. One to kind of save you a step in the legal process, because you know what the projects are. A lot of times you don't authorize something multiple years out, but since you know what the projects are, makes sense to go ahead and move forward, and then you kind of have the fungibility again if one project or one bond issue comes in a little bit lower, or one part of the project comes in a little bit lower or higher, you can kind of move the dollars around between the different projects. But then twofold, or the second part of that is we don't really know what our General Assembly's going to do. There's a lot of talk about what they're going to do with debt for school corporations, property tax, limiting that, whether that's making everything go referendum, whether that's making the process just harder for you, more costly. A lot of unknowns out there. We've seen some bills start to be proposed. We've heard a lot of rumors about what could happen. This kind of gives the school corporation the flexibility to get this done ahead of any potential changes as well. And it works perfectly because you know what your projects are too, and everything fits within your tax rate. And that's the other reason as well. If you issued all 9 million today, we wouldn't be able to do it within that 44 cents. So being able to split this up gives you that ability to do it within your debt service rate.
And between these two projects, that these would accomplish basically the entirety of our highest level need and high level need categories from the facility study. So we would be checking the majority of our more crucial things off the list between the two.
So would you say like 3/4 of the whole project, or?
Well, again, once you start getting to that medium need, that gets into more wants than needs, but yeah, I guess if you were looking at things that you're like, this is an absolute have to do this versus it would be nice to do this, the two of those first two categories are we have to do this or we're gonna have a problem down the road that is gonna limit functionality of the facility.
I think that the other thing I'll point out too, you can probably see it on the chart, is that this gives you the ability to come back in 2030 to fund some additional projects. So if there are some items on that median list, you know, you're 3 years away. And again, this is not set in stone with the structure. If we get to 27 to issue these bonds and you say, hey, we got to do something in 1 year, 2 years, we can revise the structure. Maybe we don't need to do anything for a couple more years. We can increase those payments a little bit. So the goal is definitely mine to look at that long-term capital plan the Barton Code and try to marry up the financing with that to make sure it works on a long-term basis for North Adams.
Yeah, and I wish you could say a lot of it was the aesthetic, pretty stuff, but most of those things are just building structure, building envelope things that, wall structure, electrical, HVAC controls, plumbing, that's probably 95% of everything. And big ticket items, again, pretty invasive to the school as far as it's going to cause a lot of reno, but things that need to happen just to make things keep working. And we're blessed to have the opportunity to do it ahead of something catastrophic as opposed to reacting.
Were these more of like summer projects that would get accomplished?
Some of them would have to be summer projects. We've, again, without going through the bidding process and all that, we don't know what availability of contractors. Probably, definitely the things I described to you are things we want to get done this summer. They'll be tight, so there might be some disruption to the process for kids for a couple weeks on one end or the other. The big thing on that, like the RAS schedule, since we're taking those rooms down to dirt and reworking them, is lead time on casework. It can take a long time to get that built because it's all custom made to fit your specs. So those were some of the concerns they had and why we're trying to start this process now so that we can start working toward that end if it's approved. But some things, again, some electrical things can happen, breaks or after hours or whatever. Plumbing's, though, when you're committed, you take the floor out, you're committed
Yep.
to finish.
You don't want any open pipes, do we?
No, we don't. Any other questions for Luke? Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing. Remember, if you'd like to speak, please sign in on the sheet which is located at the desk at the entrance. Before speaking to this topic, we ask that you state your name and address, limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keep any comments to 3 minutes, and avoid being repetitive if possible. May I have the sign-in sheet? Monty McCullough? Do you want to speak with the,
No, not this time.
okay? You were the only person that's not a person
Well, I
on
just
the
have a
agenda.
question. How's this gonna affect my tax rates? This project
The tax rate will stay level.
here?
That's,
Stay the same?
yes.
Okay, well, it's been going up, at least, just the school part, it's been going up. So I'm kind of, did some figuring, and since 2020, the rate gone up almost 15%. What was paid, what the rate I was given assessed. Not the assessed value, but just the tax rate for the school, went up to 15%, up from what it was. And just last year, this past 2024, I paid $2,000 to the school system. Just the school system, it's like, you guys want to borrow $9 million now? It's like, wow.
Well, our debt service tax is what this one is. So if you look at the difference between those two, our strategy is to keep that rate steady. The operations does vary. Luke, do you have any?
Well, I would just say, I mean, probably since the last couple of years, the total rate should have dropped some. Was the increase the tax bill or the tax rate?
The tax rate, the already cost tax rate
Okay.
of the school, not the total tax rate, just the school part. It was like below 1, and then up to like 1.1.
Yeah. The strategy for the school has been to maintain their debt service rate, and then the operation fund just fluctuated. So in some years, the assessed value growth was higher than the operations fund, and we have seen a decrease in the tax rate. And in other years, it may have dipped up a little bit, but not affected, not due to not due to any projects, more due to just the day-to-day operations of the school corporation, how the levy's calculated for that fund.
Well, I know just 2 months ago, it was for, okay, I would go for something like that, but okay, I need to fix the roof. But before that, for like more money to build a relay between the two school buildings and that reorganizing another big project. I just, I can't afford it.
The projects, again, are not impacting your tax rate.
There's gonna drive the costs up.
Yeah.
What are driving the costs up there?
Well, if it's your tax bill, a lot of it's gonna be your assessed value of your home increase.
Yeah, some of it is, but not all of it.
Our AV in this area, year before last, went up 10%. So that means they're saying, again, and it was for all of us who are homeowners here, it's saying that your property is worth 10% more than it was the year before.
Yeah, I searched
We
all
were
that.
not expecting it to go up again this year as much as it did, and it went up over 8% here in Adams County this year. So it's been 2 years straight in ways of really unprecedented AV growth.
Yeah, I seen a 12%.
Yeah.
So the tax rate from 24 to 25 would have dropped for the school corporation.
So, now what money was there? No, I just.
Yeah, because your AV, all of our AV went up. So even if the tax rate stays the same, when they say your property's worth more and you take that same percentage times that amount, we have to pay more. And you're right, you probably did pay more because our assessed valuation grew so much. And that is something that I think we're gonna start seeing a decline in AV is what they're telling us. But again, AV is calculated on a 3-year rolling average, so it's not gonna come off extraordinarily quickly. It's not gonna be like, okay, this was a one-off this year and we'll see it go back down to what it's been normally. It's going to probably take 3 into 4 years to see if it does return to what has been normal for Adams County. And yes, you're right, it's been an exceedingly difficult pill to swallow for a lot of folks. Inflation, I don't know if you have, this is kind of this is not my wheelhouse to talk about AV and what drives it, and
Well, just assessed value in general, or the inflation part that?
all of it together, I think,
Yeah, I
drives
mean,
everything.
I think it has been a difficult bill to swallow for both on the school's behalf and taxpayers as well. I mean, the operations fund grows by 4 to 5%, but we've seen inflation, the cost that you've had to pay for utilities, property and casualty, insurance, buses, transportation go up 10, 15, 20%. So you're trying to manage that as well. At the same time, when you're keeping your tax rate the same, if his home is growing up by 15 or 20%, his bill is going to go up by a percentage, a percentage as well. So yeah, I think it's been difficult for all parties, and we're trying to manage with less dollars than what you were used to, or the dollar doesn't stretch as far as your perspective, but a lot of people's bills are going up because of the assessment on their homes, and really, I mean, I think if you're selling your home in 2020, or maybe comparing home price in 2019 to now, it's probably increased 20-30% statewide. It's definitely not something that I think it's not sustainable, and I think it's starting to level off a little bit, but a lot of that is driven by inflation nationwide and home prices nationwide and statewide.
And some of those experiences are why you've heard us talk about, I think one of the legislators' agendas is to try to give property tax relief to consumers in general, just society in general. Unfortunately, like we've said, the cost of us to maintain a building though, because again, we're not talking about anything here that's a Taj Mahal, it's just the normal stuff. It is a lot. I mean, we saw our fuel, gas, electric basically double in 1 year. And those aren't small bills for places this large. So I'm not disagreeing that you're probably not feeling a pinch or feeling like it's costing you a lot more, but I can say it's not because we're doing a project. It's because of a combination of factors, AV being the driving force, because they're saying you have more than you had 5 years ago when you really have the same. And probably your income hasn't gone up 10, 8, 15%. No one's probably has, and that's
I would also say it's not just school districts driving that either. Your local government,
Yeah.
your libraries, that all is a part of our tax, property tax.
right. I appreciate you coming and asking questions. though.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else that would like to speak or comment? Okay, thank you to everyone who participated in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the project and the future of our community. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. No board action is legally required at this hearing. Rather, the hearing is solely to hear public comment. The board will continue to work with administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. The board will hold a second public hearing in this boardroom on January 21st at 6 p.m. The next item on the agenda is the approval to advertise for bids.
So again, this is not to supersede what we're already doing. This is just, again, to try to get lead time for contractors, should this project be approved, to start getting things on their books so that they can look at what we might want to do and start getting some of their bids together. And it would only happen after the project would be approved, that we have advertising requirements for them too, that things have to have a 30-day notice and things along those lines. So this is just for Barton Co. to get those bids out, send those to contractors, have them come in February again after the second hearing would have happened. If things are approved to move forward, to start getting notices sent out for those.
Is there a motion to approve to advertise for bids or questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Wiley. Motion by Jill, seconded by Wiley to give approval to advertise for bids. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is permission for the North Adams Food Service to participate in Food to School Cooperative for the 25-26 school year.
So Mrs. Stewart is just requesting to be able to switch cooperative. She has been with the NIESC for some time, but the one that she is wanting to join, this Food to School, is more local. And these folks do offer, both organizations offer professional development for the food service directors and even staff. The other one I think is out of Plymouth, and this one is more local. And so she likes to take her gals and even herself and her kitchen managers to these. And there doesn't seem to be a real difference in the pricing, or that the allegiance to one organization or another is not really going to impact how much she can get food for. So she just is wanting to recommend that you approve her joining the Food to School Cooperative as opposed to the NIESC.
Any questions or comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Dave, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Joel. Motion by Dave, seconded by Joel to give permission for North Adams Food Services to participate in the Foods to School Cooperative for the 25-26 school year. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the approval of the IRS mileage rate change.
The IRS did up their mileage reimbursement from 67 cents a mile rate to 70 cents a mile. And because we do some mileage reimbursement for different folks, we do have to at least meet the IRS guidelines.
Okay. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Wiley, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Darlene. Motion by Wiley, seconded by Darlene to approve the IRS mileage rate as noted. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the ratification of the MOU to be used in conjunction with the 24-25 master contract.
So I sent you some information about this back in the fall, and we almost voted on it in December, but did not have the pre-approval from ERB, which is the group that looks at our bargaining agreements. Got it 30 minutes before when we had already pulled it from the agenda, but we do have it, and so it was a simple fix, one that I still hate that we even had to make. It was a miss on my part of a line in our salary schedule for new staff. So basically we inserted a new third-year experience level that impacted 4 teachers. Very mildly impact to the total bargaining amount. NADA did ratify it last Wednesday, I believe. And so I'm recommending that you ratify this MOU. If it's ratified, I'll have to upload it, and it will be part of our master contract for 24-25.
Okay. Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second
Motion by Dave, seconded by Wiley. I was reading in my head before I started. Sorry, by Wiley. To approve the ratification of the MOU to be used in conjunction with the 24-25 master contract. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
that.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the approval of the resolution to move funds from the monthly education to the operation fund from January 25 through June of 25.
So as we kind of talked about earlier in the finance meeting, this is something that the state, when they moved from general fund to education and operations fund, gave us permission to do. We have decreased our amount in the last several years. We are going to keep it stagnant at $75,000 a month from education to operations, again, without knowing what's going to happen with funding into operations through property tax reform, and we've just been able to keep a pretty healthy amount. Again, this is something that as the year goes on, if we think it's something we can decrease, we can always come back can do that, but right now, that's, again, hovers between the 7 to 8% of our operations revenue that we are transferring, which is fairly low for most school districts.
Okay. Any questions or comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Wiley, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jill. Motion by Wiley, seconded by Jill to approve the resolution to move funds monthly from education to operations, January through June of '25. All those in favor, announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the approval of the early literacy grant fund expenditure.
So this is the second year that the state put out this grant. It is to encourage, again, science of reading and for staff to really put an emphasis on early reading. It allocated funds for teachers, again, preschool through grade 3, and not just teachers, staff who provided direct instruction on reading to students in preschool through grade 3 to receive a stipend through this grant based on a complexity model with student iRead achievement growth data. Our allocation increased pretty dramatically from last year. The state's allocation did, so we had over $27,000 this year to distribute to staff. Tiffany headed that up, and that will be split between 45 different staff, some certified, some non-certified, who provided direct reading instruction to students. Right now, it looks like it will be approximately $615 per person prior to deductions. So we just need your approval in order to distribute that.
Okay. Questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Joel, seconded by Wiley. Motion by Joel, seconded by Wiley to approve the early literacy grant funds expenditure. All those in favor, announce by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. Next item is the approval of policy 7455. It's the first reading.
So basically, there's no action tonight because it is a first reading, and with policy, you have to have 2 readings, so we'll potentially act on this one way or the other in February. This is kind of a matter of convenience, I guess, if you would say, but legislation has changed, or State Board of Accounts rules have changed, that now you don't have to basically raise the threshold amount from $5,000 to $10,000, which gives us, meaning we don't have to go through the process as often for those items that would qualify in this policy.
So items under 10,000 are now
We don't
not
have,
listed.
yes, not as,
Okay.
not under what the state board surprised us, but hey, we'll take it. So it's really just a change in amounts, and it's due to a change at the State Board of Accounts.
Okay. I think any questions or comments on that? We don't have any action this month. Okay, we'll move on to approval of personnel assignment.
So at times, there are some folks that, due to some new state law enacted, we have to take their personnel approval through the school board meeting. So at this time, I would recommend the hiring of the individual listed in your packet. I don't see any, I don't think that there are any issues that would lead to having to have any consideration other than putting forth his hire.
Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel assignment.
Okay, motion by Wiley, is there a second? Second by Michelle. Motion by Wiley, second by Michelle to approve the personnel assignment as noted. All those in favor, announce by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 7-0. We are at the superintendent's report.
Well, I want to welcome everybody back from Christmas break. It seemed to go really fast, just like everything is this year. And then, of course, winter happened. I am getting my winter newsletter put together. I'm going to kind of give parents information on how we come to different decisions on cancellations, delays. So this winter has, we didn't get a ton of snow, but it didn't come at the right times, and some of our back roads don't always get cleared. And then we always at school have to consider teenage drivers, and some of them it's their first time driving on snow and ice, and we're usually going to err on the side of caution with that. Want to thank everyone for their cooperation. We were a little bit hesitant to do e-learning on the first day back, but honestly, I think I was sitting next to my first grader doing it, and it actually was nice for them to get to see their classmates. It was kind of a soft launch for them. I don't know that the high school kids probably felt the same way, but it was a soft launch for elementary to get a little bit of school and a little bit less structured of a way, or structured of a way, but not too much pressure that first day. Yeah, not quite back in the building yet. February 10th upcoming is our next waiver day with no school. It is known for always now as Legends Day. I think those boys are in 5th grade now, and they'll probably wear their football jerseys.
Yeah, I don't know if the new board members, if you heard the whole spiel. They had a project, and they had to sell something that was important to them. And their thought was the day after the Super Bowl should be a day out of school, because who doesn't want to stay up late and watch the game and stuff? And so that was one of the projects, and then we had them present it to us. And
It was pretty awesome.
It was awesome, yeah.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
And they were super excited.
They were,
let me tell you. Especially when they heard
Yeah.
that worked.
Yeah.
So we call it Legends Day because they said they were going to be legends of the 4th grade. This is School Board Appreciation Month in January, and so thank you to all of you, your new board members, for taking that blind step forward, maybe not knowing what you got yourself into or what your buddies got you talked into, right? But public service is something that I think is a great lesson, and it's a great witness to show our kids that, you know, the things that they enjoy don't happen without folks like you operating at this level and approving things and worrying about things and advocating and discussing. So thank you for doing what you do. It's not always easy. There's a lot of hard decisions, a lot of hard information sometimes, but I appreciate you and appreciate your dialogue and your feedback. It's very helpful to me, and I always appreciate the collaborative mindset and just being able to work together, and not all boards have that, so I very much appreciate that. I never have to say, oh, I don't have that. Not a great board. So in January, I also, and I'm going to talk about this in my newsletter, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of focus here, but I always try to come up with a word of the year, and last year it was stand up, and again, because we were needing to get back to business, getting everyone back and working and moving forward and getting back to what we were trying to really accomplish as a school system. And this year, the word is focus. There's a lot of changes probably coming down the pike, and that's okay. In education, I think that's our middle name sometimes, is change. And but there's some big ones potentially. There have been big ones, and I think sometimes we get wrapped up in the fact that things are changing and forget that really the underlying thing that we're here to do, which is love on kids and educate kids, that's pretty simple. Complex, but simple at the same time. That doesn't change. And so we just have to keep our focus on what are we here to do and how do we need to do it. And so what things do we need to most focus on to move that needle for them and for our community. So that's something we're going to be talking about as a staff and probably as a board too. I know February upcoming, we'll have a board meeting before some of these. We're going to have parent-teacher conferences upcoming. Pre-K, believe it or not, pre-K and kindergarten roundup will be happening here in just a few weeks, at least the first initial round. High school's getting ready to start scheduling for 25-26 here in about 3 weeks. So things are cooking. We're already into 25-26 planning. I think that's all I have for.
Okay. Any other matters to come before the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing. My son is very impaired, and he had a very special relationship with Dale. Dale, but Austin is very specific with the people that he loves, and he really loved Dale. And they kind of shared, he would request to, when he would have a hard day, he would request to go to Dale's office, and they would listen to Foo Fighters, we both, our favorite band, my favorite band, his favorite band. And they would just kind of chill out in his office together and listen to music. And I don't know, I'm gonna miss him a lot, so prayers for his family.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for knowing that. I'm sure it is true.
Yeah.
And he didn't always want you to know he was a teddy bear, but he is a big old teddy bear. I remember watching him open Austin's. Austin always just handed him his granola bar or his fruit cup or whatever. Dale was the opener.
Yeah, he would request his office like this, just
Yeah.
wanted to go to his office, yeah. Very sweet.
Any other board member or public comments? Okay, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.